Welcome to the podcast, Working Drummer. Dynamic interviews that tell you everything you need to know about being a professional drummer and a few things you may not want to know. Produced by Mike Jackson and hosted by myself, Matthew Crouse.
Nashville Drummer Jam. It's been going on for some time. We've got the 7th one coming up in about a month. How many of these have you done? Because I saw you...
I think the only one... I know that I did... if I remember right, weren't the first couple the Jerry Gasco, like a benefit thing?
Yes.
Okay, I did those.
Okay.
One was a couple of plain King's X tunes. Then they did a Jeff Porcaro one, which I missed. And then Bonham.
Yeah.
I did the Bonham one, so I did two Jerry Gasco. I've done all but one, I guess.
Bonham, and then... then Neil was after.
The Neil one, and then
one?
the Stuart Copeland.
Okay.
And then... and now this one.
Cool. Have you seen, it's been interesting to see it grow.
Oh, yeah.
In popularity.
Yeah.
But what do you think it's done to the community in general? Or how has it helped the drumming community?
I think for everybody in Nashville, with the advent of internet, the fact that you can put these videos out on YouTube, and Tom and David and those guys do such a phenomenal job of really pushing it where people that may not normally know what's going on in Nashville, suddenly there's a buzz about all these guys in Nashville.
Yeah.
And they really, really have done a phenomenal job of pushing it out there and getting people involved, getting it visible to some kid that's in Denver, doesn't know anything about it, but he can go, man, all these guys that do all these country gigs, and they all know how to play Neil Peart tunes, and they all get together and they play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really cool. And the coolest thing about it to me is there's so many varied guys from so many different backgrounds, but we all have the same influences. Yeah. And when if you're involved in it, I guess being in on the inside's a little different than being on the outside watching it, but when you're involved in it, it's amazing how fired up everybody is about it. Like, dude, as soon as we finish the Stuart Copeland one, I mean, they were passing around ballots backstage like, who do you want to be the next one? And everybody was voting.
Right.
And which is why we've got the one we have now, which I haven't said. I don't know if you...
You can say it. It's revealed.
Alex Van Halen.
Yeah.
I voted as soon as I saw his name. I was like, oh, Alex. There's just... You could get 100 guys. We could do this thing for 3 days. There's so much material. There's so much stuff. And everybody loves freaking Alex, man.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody comes. You know now when you hear guys play drums in Nashville, they're not old school. The majority are not old school country guys. They're younger guys who grew up playing rock, and that's what those gigs are now.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Rich playing Al Dean's gig, dude. That's like Bon Jovi. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a arms over your head rock gig.
Yeah.
And Al is one of the freaking kingpins of that, man. All of us grew up watching him.
Yeah. Well, what was your discovery of Van Halen or Alex?
Actually, the first band that I was ever in, we didn't do any Van Halen tunes, but the singer had on a Van Halen shirt from the first tour, Van Halen 1. Yeah. And I saw this Van Halen. I think it was a picture with Alex had that silver kit with the light up, had the mallets on fire or something.
Okay.
And I was like, what is that? And he said, Van Halen, man, they're great. Yeah. And then over just little bit by little bit, I ran into guys who somebody had a cassette player, and I was like, what is that? Oh, it's Van Halen. And then the more I listened, the more I thought they were great, and they just kind of had that quintessential American rock band thing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a British band who came over here and showed us how it's supposed to be done. These are hometown guys.
Right.
And it was the rock party thing, the 80s excess, that whole thing. And then they did these records. Eddie was a monster guitar player, and he became this iconic hero, and everybody would listen to it for that.
Right.
But if you listen underneath what was going on, like the harmony thing and the pocket and the sound, dude, there's nobody to me today. Nobody.
Yeah.
That one freaking backbeat, whop, and that's Alex Van Halen.
Right.
He has the most identifiable sound, the way he hits, the sound of his kit, the stuff he plays. It's no denying it's him.
Yeah.
And you don't see many guys like that anymore. You just it's kind of, there's a genericness to all the pop music that you go, it could be this guy, it could be that guy. I don't really know. With Al, Yeah. You just freaking know.
Can you pinpoint something about that gives him that thumbprint?
The two things that stick out to me more than anything is he was one of the first guys I heard that kind of, in a modern sense, sort of did that Ringo thing, riding on a crash cymbal, where he's got those big crash cymbals that just created that big wash. Instead of ding, 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 ding behind it, there was that washy thing. That's one thing I noticed. And, of course, the biggest thing is that freaking snare sound.
Yes.
Just that thick, sounds like a 2x4, 8 inches thick, just whop. It's got this mushy, meaty kind of thwack to it. You just, I remember actually doing some of my first recordings and taping up a snare drum to try to get that sound. I just wanted it so bad because I loved it. And it's, when you hear those records, you hear that thing, those big rock riffs, big guitar riffs, and just that whop, man, it just occupies this, 70% of the mix is this just giant snare drum in the middle of it.
Sonic space.
Yeah, dude, it's brilliant. There's nobody that's got a more identifiable signature to me than he does.
Is there anything that you take away that you find, hey, this is kind of an Alex thing I'm doing on my gig?
Oh, yeah, God, man. I mean, when I was a kid, first learning how to play and playing two bass drums and stuff, he does a lot of really, really hip stuff with two bass drums.
Okay.
And can make it work in a pop tune. And can do it, not necessarily, some of them are the Hot for Teacher thing where you have the whole tunes built around it, and others are just fills or just ideas or little things. Mm-hmm. But all his stuff is real, it's different. It doesn't seem to be, that's what always jumped out to me. It doesn't seem to be like the standard just booga, 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 booga drum stuff. There's always something on top of it. Hot for Teacher was a cool double bass shuffle, but that backwards ding, 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 ding,
oh, right.
that was so weird. When I heard it, I'm like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
But it's perfect. It falls in your hands great, and it works, and it makes that tune, that freaking bell of that ride cymbal is another giant part of that track.
Yeah.
It's got to be there. If you did anything else, it just wouldn't be the same groove, So all of those kind of things in conjunction with still the fact that he's got these phenomenal tunes that they do. That his brother writes these tracks, these big giant riffs, and this singable melodies, and he gets to play drums behind them. Dude's got the best gig in the world, and nobody could do it but him.
I know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And he's got the name,
Yeah, of course, it helps. I've said it a bunch. I think there's two things about those guys that to me, years later listening to him, I think that Eddie got a lot of press way back in the day in the Guitar Hero days because he was one of the first guys to popularize that whole hammer-ons and that stuff, and everybody in the 80s started doing it because he was just a visionary in that sense. One of the things he's overlooked for is his rhythm stuff. The riffs, the stuff underneath that. Okay. When there's a vocal going on, the stuff he plays, that guy is just one of the best there's ever been. Wow. And I listen more to that now than the wheelie stuff.
Right.
That's cool, but just give me the meat. And God. And then the other thing is, I really think Alex is one of the most underrated, overshadowed guys that there's ever been. Because that band, anytime you say Van Halen, people go immediately Eddie Van Halen. Right. Because he was such an iconic guitar player. Yeah. But you step back and look underneath and look what his brother's doing behind him. Dude, that guy's the real deal. I mean, everything I've ever heard. And every record that they do, it comes out, I don't care who's singing on it. Yeah. It's the rhythm, the background of that band is those guys. And he does some freaking amazing stuff.
It's like Zeppelin. You need every single one of those
exactly.
To make
it's just not going to be. It's just not going to be the same. And they did it with different singers, and they were able to work different. Right. A different thing out of it. The party rock stuff with Dave, and a little more thoughtful and musical oriented stuff with Sammy. And they've done a bunch of different stuff and whatever. But still, the cornerstone is the two of them. They're the only two guys in the world. There's so many tunes that they have. I know you can agree with me on this. There's so many tunes that they do where the tune starts out and there's some sort of a riff and there's some sort of a thing playing and you're going, where the hell is one? And then all of a sudden, boom, and you go, oh, there it is. And they're the only two people on the planet that can hear where it is prior to the main big downbeat. It drives me nuts.
I think what's that song Right Now where there's the keyboard riff?
Yep. It sounds backwards, yeah.
It sounds backwards and depends on what band you're playing with.
Yeah.
And the keyboard player.
Yep.
It's like, do you know where one is?
Yeah, it is. It's funny, but there's so many tunes that they have that are like that. Yeah. They just start out with the two of them playing, and it's like, I have no Panama. Panama did it for years. I don't know where one is. All I just know is it goes ding, 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 ding. Okay, there's one. Because I just, at Hot for Teacher was one. For years, I heard it backwards.
Oh,
I still hear it kind of, if I let my ear go there, I'll hear it backwards. But it works. They make it work.
Some guys are talking about what song they're going to play.
Yeah.
Some guys are not. For a long time, it was a secret who this tribute was going to be. But the cat's out of the bag. It's going to be Alex Van Halen. But some guys are kind of holding on to what song they're going to play. So you got to come out December 14th and hear.
Okay.
And some guys are like, no, I'm playing this song. It's going to be great. Blah blah blah. Do you want to tell?
Mine's going to be. If everybody's holding on to it, I'll just hold on to it. But mine's not a big. It's kind of an album cut.
Okay.
But it's great, and it's a Dave era tune. It's an earlier one.
All right.
So I'll give you it's off the second album.
All right.
And that's all I'm going to give you.
Okay.
No, it's not that big of a deal, but everybody will find out. There's going to be a lot. I think the majority of the ones that everybody's picking, for the most part, are the early era Dave stuff. I think it's more. I think kind of more that way.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite record or a favorite song or anything like that throughout?
Man, I got a lot. It's funny. It depends on the. It depends on the era. It depends on the time of the band. There's so many. I listen to it so much. That was one of the things, like when they said, "Okay, what song do you want to do?" And I started going through, and I was like, "God, that's a good. That one would be cool too." Yeah. And I had like 6 or 8 tunes. I had to narrow it down. Maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. But the one that really stuck out at me was the one that I'm going to do, and it was like, just because it's kind of cool. It's just kind of hip. Favorite-wise, man, there's tons. I personally thought that the last record they did with Sammy, Balance, was a monster record. Just production-wise, sound-wise, it was gigantic.
Yeah.
It did have some hits on it, but it wasn't near like some of the other ones. Some of those other Sammy ones, like 5150, well, it's some great tunes, some monster tunes on it.
Yeah.
If you listen to it side by side to some of the later stuff, and even some of the Dave stuff, it's like, it's just real squished, and there's not a whole lot of level.
Interesting.
And
maybe this is just the time, the era.
It could have been. I don't know.
Style of production.
Yeah. But the tunes are still great.
Yeah.
Man, Van Halen,
maybe it's the mood
I
you're
don't
in.
know.
You're going to pick up.
Yeah, I will put on a record, and I really like the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge record.
Okay.
That's a big one. As far as tunes go, it's a simple tune. It was a big hit. You just mentioned it. I think that's just a genius piece of work. Is Right Now.
Yeah.
Because the way that Al plays on the verses, there's that one thing he does that's just so stupid and it's so perfect. Where Sammy's like, where he says like, don't want to wait till tomorrow, and the grooves, God, till tomorrow, God, stop. This big open, sizzly hi hat for like a whole quarter note, and that's all there is. And he does it every time in the verse, and it just every time it gets to that, I go, that is so freaking cool.
That's awesome.
It's little stuff like that. It's those little things. Yeah, the Hot for Teacher thing, it's great.
Yeah.
But the little subtle things are, and besides that, just where he puts the backbeat, the thickness of it, and he just lays it just right where it ought to be.
Yeah.
It's a great band. Fucking great band.
It's going to be a good show. And December 14th.
Yep.
The Exit In, Nashville. Go to workingdrummer.net to hear the rest of the interview that we did. And Pat, I appreciate you. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you letting me do it.
All right.
Cool.